Hey everybody, in this video I am going to show you some dollar store markers. These are alcohol markers and we are just going to take a look at how they blend and some different papers that I tried that are alcohol marker friendly, and they are marketed as alcohol marker papers for the most part. And right now I'm just showing you my swatch book and I'm just going through. So these are my swatches right here with alcohol markers. And I just take a swatch book everywhere I go. And that way, whenever I find something, I can see, check my book and see what colors I need to get. So I have two different brands of dollar store markers, but they are pretty much the same thing. I think they're just packaged separately. So any dollar store markers that you find will, for the most part, be the same thing, just packaged a little bit differently. So one says Artist Series and one says Crafts. And I'll be showing you a little bit more of the markers in later on in the video. And so I'm just swatching out these new ones that I got, which is just this set of kind of turquoise colors, aqua colors, and a set of pink magenta type colors. And there's some more of the markers. So these are all of the alcohol markers that I have from the dollar store. And I am using some other ones to compare the quality. So Spectrum Noir, Artist Loft, Copic, Hobby Color, and I think that's it. So now I'm using the B marker paper that you can get from Michaels. It's just a little notebook journal type thing. And it does say it is marker paper. As you can see, it doesn't blend really well. Now, obviously, it's going to help to use shades that are very similar to each other and work to the, light to dark gradually, rather than taking a really light shade and then a really dark shade or contrasting color or shade right beside each other and try to blend. So it does help to have similar colors together and then gradually blend out that way. And some of these are working better. You can see how this big pink blob I have there, when I'm using similar colors and similar shades, I should say, then it does work to blend a lot better. The other thing I want to mention is these markers, like, the lids and whatever, they're kind of clumsy and awkward. So you do want to make sure that you get them on. You don't want your lids not completely clicked on. And it's nice to have markers, any kind of markers, where you get a nice click and you know that they're on. With these markers, you don't really get that, satisfying click. So you do need to really make sure that they are on. So that is, one of the cons. It's not necessarily a deal breaker, especially if you are looking to save some money. And this is the pen and ink paper. So this is not necessarily marker paper, but it is pen and ink paper from Michaels. And it works okay too. But it's still not the greatest kind of blending. And I do have a blender that I'm using there. And I'm also getting, in a little bit, I'll be getting out the blending solution that I make myself. And I will link to that in this video as well. But it's actually going to be more applicable to the next video that I'm going to upload regarding these markers. And I just I don't know if you noticed that, but there is bleed through definitely with these, even in this paper. So you want to keep that in mind. You want to have something underneath. So you can't really use both sides of the paper when you're dealing with alcohol markers. You're just not going to be able to in any of the paper, really. It bleeds through, and of course the lighter colors won't bleed through as much. So now I'm just kind of drawing a flower, and I'm really just, experimenting here and just seeing. You're just watching me kind of try out different markers and see how they work together. The dollar store brands, see how they work with other brands. And then now I am doing a quick, very rough sketch, portrait or face sketch, kind of a mixed media style. And I do want to mention like alcohol markers as a solo medium is not really anything I ever do. So I use alcohol markers as well as other products. So I'm not an expert in alcohol marker sketching. There's much better people who, work with alcohol markers and they do all their work in alcohol markers and they're great at it. I don't do that. So if you're expecting, me to have some amazing work here, that's not really what this video is about. It's basically just trying out some dollar store markers. That's all I'm showing you here, and just my assessment of them. This isn't really a tutorial on how to work with dollar store markers. Alcohol markers. One thing I could do is how to use alcohol markers as well as other things. And so these sketches that I'm doing, I would normally, do this, and then I would add some other medium, some pastels, even some acrylic paint and whatever, and I would just fool around till I get the kind of look I'm going for. In this video, however, I am just using alcohol markers because that is the video. So I'm not going to add in some other things. So I'm not trying to improve the sketch. And I just want to see how it works with different, I drew a flower and now I'm going to do a portrait. And you can see some of these colors are just like, obviously not the same colors as on the lid or on the cap. But any kind of markers, you always want to try to test that out first. Don't assume that it's going to be the same shade. And now I am using the marker paper from Canson. It's the purple one. You can see the purple behind it there. And this paper I found to be much better for blending. And the blending that I'm doing isn't the greatest job, but you can definitely move the color around a lot better with this paper. So if I'm going to suggest some paper, I would say the Canson marker paper. Right there, you can see it. And so far, as far as the alcohol markers themselves, I think they're totally great because alcohol markers can be very expensive. So if you are just starting out, definitely these are a good way to start. They work very similarly. They're not as smooth. They're not as, whatever. And I don't know how long they're going to last, like if they dry out or whatever. But they are totally fine for beginners. And even, someone like me who, if we're talking alcohol markers, I would call myself definitely not. Let's put it this way. If I wanted to take some time and really improve on my alcohol marker skills, I would have no problem using these and getting some more shades in these to try them out before I got expensive shades. And then I would go and work my way up if, I really wanted to develop this alcohol marker discipline kind of thing. And so I think they can be worked like interchangeably. They work together well with other alcohol markers. Copics are kind of they're the main ones. They're the ones that are the markers to get. They're very expensive, and they have like wonderful skin tones, very, very light skin tones that are nice and subtle shades. Some really nice dark shades. So you know, there are definitely some benefits, whereas you're not going to get those subtle differences in shades with these markers. And so, you know, a portrait like this, I have limited options, which you can tell when I start adding some blending in here with skin tones and whatever. But it is what it is. So definitely the quality of them are fine. As far as how long they last, I don't know, but they're very cheap, so it wouldn't be, you're still, even if you go buy a second set, you're still quite, you've still saved a lot of money by using those rather than some more expensive ones. If you want to use, sometimes, you know, you can find some of this other brands that are a little bit more on the higher quality side, and you can find some good deals on them. So, and which is what I've done with the Spectrum Noir, and the Artist Loft I got for 50% off coupon. Like, I got it as a big set. And I have done other videos, and I will try to link to them as well below in the description. And coming up on the right, if there's videos that are applying to what I'm talking about, then I will link that. But I've done some videos where I've compared different alcohol markers. Oh, and Jane Davenport is another brand, and they're all very good. And I was actually quite surprised that these alcohol markers are good. They're streaky, but that could be just me. Well, part of it is just me. I do definitely notice with the Copic markers, they aren't nearly as streaky. It's just so smooth, and it is really nice, and you can feel a difference in using them. You can just feel that the quality is better. But if you are just starting out and you are wanting, or if you are just wanting to do this, you know, on the less expensive side, the dollar store markers would definitely be a way to go. So you might, depending on what dollar stores you have and where your location is, I'm in Northern Canada, so you know, this is what I've seen at my dollar stores. These Craft brand, which you can see off to the left, and then one that says Artist Series, which I've already mentioned. Oh yeah, you can see that one on the right. So they do have different tips. One side is the chisel, and then one is like more of a fine tip. So you don't have any brush tip, which is really nice to have. I do like the brush tip. Sorry, I say a lot. I need to stop doing that. So, you know, depending on the tips, you know, you may not like those tips. And so that could be a drawback to some of the markers. And the shades, also, you're not going to get those subtle differences in shades that you would get with other sets. Like the Copics, you have like every little different shade subtlety that you can imagine. And I don't think there's a blender that comes with them, but maybe there is. So there's, like I said before, I'm assuming that the dollar store markers, even though they're packaged maybe a little bit different, are going to be the same across every dollar store. I mean, they're pretty much the same marker, just packaged different. So I would, you know, even if it doesn't say Craft or Artist Series on it, if it says something else, it's probably going to be just very similar to these dollar store markers as well. As far as the paper, like I mentioned already, you do want to experiment a little bit. You might have access to other paper that I don't have access to, or that I didn't, you know. This is what I could find in my store, in my local store, that is basically Michael's, and that's it. And I can order from Amazon, but I didn't want to, and sometimes that takes a while. So I do kind of like the different colors in here, but as you can see, I'm very limited to what skin tones were. So I was just trying to have some warmer tones on her skin and some cooler tones, and then some pink cheeks, which I did not have any real subtle. Like, I used, honestly, the colors here, the shades, were the most subtle shades I had for the dollar store markers. So you can see they're not really all that subtle. And then, of course, I wanted to go in with the purple for shading. And I think I did actually end up going in with that Copic because I just could not find something that would work. Oh, this blue one here I'm trying to shade with, but it's very, eh. And then I tried to blend it out. And now I'm just going to my reference of hairstyles, and I didn't find the perfect, well, not the perfect, but the specific hair color that I was looking for. But whatever, I'll just make it work with what I had. So, yeah, this hopefully gives you a good idea if you wanted to check out the dollar store alcohol markers. Whenever I've gone to the store, there's just been like one or two shades available, sets of shades available. So I've kind of had to like see them and buy them whenever. I didn't find many packages that had a huge variety. You kind of have to buy a package of 3, buy them in packages of 3, as far as what I saw anyways. So now, I would typically, well, I would have probably already, well, I definitely would have added some more media in here already above this, or layered into this, and then maybe even gone in with some more alcohol markers on top. And I just kind of fool around. If you've seen some of my other videos, so this is actually the first, I don't know what you're gonna, drawing, sketch, whatever, that I've done. I've tried to complete the whole thing in alcohol markers, and obviously I'm not going to do anything with this thing, but the whole thing is alcohol markers, and I don't know if I've ever done that before. Pretty sure I haven't. So you can see this is kind of what has turned out, and I would now go in and really fix some of that streakiness. I don't love it, although some of it in some places I kind of like it if it's a little bit not those hard lines. It kind of looks a little bit more painterly if there's a little more blending done. The neck there has some serious issues. That's bad. I kind of like her, some areas of her skin on her face, and some are just not good at all. But again, you can, I might actually do a video where I kind of try to fix this, fix that portrait, and just to see what we can do to fix it. But here is the next video where I used alcohol markers in a typical way that I would normally use alcohol ink or alcohol markers. And you might have seen some of my videos where I've done this before. And this is how I normally use these markers, not doing a portrait with them. And so I want to try it a way that I'm used to and a way that I'm familiar with, and then have a little bit more talent in, so you can be looking forward to that. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, please click like and subscribe down below.